If you are considering starting a career in scientific publishing, you need to know that the word editor does not have one and specific meaning. So it is important for you to know the system and the professionals part of it. Hello to everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, welcome. I'm Dr. Manuela and this is a new episode of my podcast about scientific publishing. The aim of these videos is to help people interested into academic publishing to learn more about this system, to either pursue an editorial career or to improve their submission experience of papers. I have interviewed in this video Dr. Manuel Breuer, Deputy Editor of Communications Biology Journal. During this interview, Manuel has shared with us his education and his career path before approaching to his current role, the editorial roles he went through before joining the team of Communications Biology Journal, and also the daily and weekly responsibilities he has to face in his current role. Of note, Manuel discusses the different structures of some peer-reviewed journals and also mentions some of the job roles you may find in scientific publishing. Eventually, he gave a few pieces of advice about writing a quality paper and for authors to deal with the editorial teams of the journals they are submitting their papers. So watch the video until the end. Enjoy! Thank you very much, Manuel, for being here with us today. Manuel is Manuel Breuer. Am I pronouncing properly?
Breuer.
Sorry, very bad.
Yeah, that's fine.
So he's a deputy editor of Communications Biology. And today I will go through a few questions that I have for him about his previous experience, the experience that led him to become an editor, and also his current everyday job tasks. Manuel, thank you for being here. I would like to start asking you to give context to your background, which is your university education.
Yeah, thank you for having me, first of all. My background is in biology. So I studied biology in Germany. Originally, I'm from Germany. So I studied biology on diploma at the University of Düsseldorf with a short year at the University of California, Davis. In the US, and after the diploma in biology, I went on to a PhD in Paris at the University Pierre and Marie Curie. So that, completing the PhD was then my education, which was also I'd say in cell biology, developmental biology, a bit of molecular biology, sort of at the intersection of these domains in biology.
Okay. And then so I met Manuel years ago when he was working with the fruit flies with Drosophila melanogaster, when actually I was doing my PhD with Drosophila. So you joined the world of Drosophila as a postdoc then, or still during your PhD? I can't remember if you...
So my PhD was indeed on mouse oocytes. Okay. So really work on vertebrates, and I had worked during my diploma project. I had worked with Drosophila, so I returned to the lovely fly for my postdoc in Edinburgh after the PhD. Yeah, indeed.
Okay. And so basically, you did after your PhD postdoc, and then after a few years of this postdoc, then you approached the scientific publishing world, right?
Yes, so I did after the PhD in Paris. I went to Edinburgh, as I said, to the Wellcome Trust, and truly sort of independent postdoc for around about 6 years. So a fairly intense and long postdoc. And after that, I transitioned into academic publishing for my first editorial role. Indeed.
Okay. And did you, so to start your career in scientific publishing, did you get any experience, let's editorial related before
there was anything besides, I don't know, just being a reviewer, maybe. My question is basically if you just stop to being a researcher and then started to be an editor, or something you think that helped you as experience, you know, like to become an editor.
So I do have experiences that one would count as an experience that is valuable. However, I'm always very keen to say that I don't think it's a prerequisite to become an editor, what I've done. So as an undergrad, still back in Germany, in Düsseldorf, I worked throughout the years. I worked as a journalist for a regular newspaper, so more in sports, local politics, these kind of things. But however, I do not think, I mean, it sets the foundation, I guess, but I don't think that is anything that really makes a difference when you go from academia into an academic publishing role. Another thing that was really fun was at the University of Edinburgh then, as well as a postdoc. I was member of what we called Press Gang. So this was a group of researchers, a group of PhDs, postdocs, assistants, and also group leaders, actually, who would get together about every 6 weeks and look at what the School of Biological Science in Edinburgh had published, was about to be published, rather. So we would talk to people pre-publication, and then see which kind of stories were newsworthy, and also can we help the press office in selling the story in a really nice way, so that it appeals to the authors of the study, but also to the layman or the lay audience broadly, which is a really great exercise because you have to think about very different studies as a School of Biological Science studies across all fields of biology. What is the key aspect of this study? What is the key novelty? And what is interesting here maybe for someone who has no business usually with ecology or with microbiology or with genetics. So I thought that's certainly a useful exercise. But I don't think, again, it's something that gets you the job per se if you want to become an editor.
Okay. But maybe in some way, I think it made you closer to this kind of world. I don't know. What do you think?
Yes.
So
yeah,
not
I
as closer.
I would always have. I
interest.
always have a predisposition towards publishing, and as a PhD and as a postdoc, I was always very interested in my favorite journals. So the journals I was reading, I was always keen to look at what are they publishing, what do the issues look like, what who works for them, what is the editorial board. So I was maybe more than the average PhD or postdoc interested in this. That I would probably say. Again, I don't think it's, it's just so my predisposition. I don't think it's something that really makes a huge difference. But of course, there's some sort of foundation being interested in these things. I think the key aspect here, if it's about maybe also, looking from our conversation, you're looking for advice, how to prepare for an editorial career. I think it's generally being curious about topics that are outside of your immediate research zone, out of your comfort zone, where you do your experiments, where you read the key papers that you need to read. Go to seminars that are a bit far away from what you usually read and study, and think certainly about what is actually the novelty here. What is something that is really of interest to anyone, or is a message to anyone in biology, or of course other fields like chemistry or physics, of course, in STEM. Looking at research in this way, that is something I think that always helps when you become an editor or when you apply to an editorial position, because it allows you to synthesize aspects of research. It allows you to quickly grasp a message, think about what is needed in a manuscript as well, what could be, who could review this, all of these aspects are important.
Yes, I totally agree. Also because in a journal, even if you, as you said, you focus on a main subject, for example, I work for a journal focusing on neuroscience, of course, you have a spectrum that is quite broad. So you have to be interested and curious about different aspects of neuroscience for this kind of roles. Yeah, I totally agree. What then led you to do that step to, explore this option then while doing the
postdoc? I think, well, maybe it was a certain curiosity to almost come back to something that I had spend a lot of time on as an undergrad, although it was definitely my side job to make a bit of money to pay the rent. But of course, I also said that throughout I always had interest in academic publishing, and I think I was quite happily applying to research positions. It's a long postdoctoral time, long PhD in long time in academia overall. But when that opportunity was coming around the corner, I just saw an ad. This was advertised by people at the Wellcome Trust, and I thought, oh, okay, this is really interesting, and I just gave it a shot. Really, it was quite a quick thinking decision that, oh, this sounds fun. Let's just try this, while I'm of course sorting out what will be next and whether I go for an independent career. So it also wasn't really a master plan to go into academic publishing after 3 or 5 years of a postdoc. As I think more people join academic publishing on average after a PhD, to maybe also anticipate, what we can talk about, when is the best time to join, or what you need to do in academia before becoming an editor. But yeah, so it was rather a sort of a quick decision. It's like, this could be interesting, and then I sort of never looked back.
Yeah, and I have to say, I think that even I have to say, sometimes talking to people that are still doing research, maybe particularly more the PhD students, people are a bit surprised, or at least they see becoming an editor, joining scientific publishing career like something different. Although I think it's a bit of a following step based on the experience that we made in the lab. So I'm saying that because I understand the fact that after years as a researcher in the lab, then you thought, okay, this could be a good step to do, because it's not the different in terms of experience to start with. Then of course you have to work on other aspects later. So and then when basically now that you are now a deputy editor, have you done some steps, I suppose, before becoming a deputy editor, or
yes,
you straight away? No.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And also slightly different roles, which is also something I'd like to highlight, because editor is not editor, so there's very different roles to the editorial world, and sometimes it can be a bit confusing, especially for outsiders, I would think, because the title can be the same but they mean different things, or they're different but they actually mean the same thing on your day-to-day duties in your day-to-day editorial roles. So I joined, after my postdoc, I joined Journal of Cell Science here in Cambridge, where I'm still based, in as a features and reviews editor. So the reviews editor tells you that my main responsibilities were thinking about and commissioning reviews from authoritative names, about hot topics in a way, in cell biology. So I would go to a lot of conferences, and you spend a lot of time as a reviews editor editing, co-working with the authors on the manuscript. So it's called in academic publishing, this is called developmental editing. So you think about how can we improve the structure? How can we improve the flow? How can we improve the writing of a manuscript, of a review, that once it's published, it's really nicely lays out its key points and the key messages come across. It's a really insightful review. So that's also that you spend a lot of time on. So that was about 3.5 years. Then I joined the FEPS journal, part of FEPS, so the Federation of European Biochemical Societies, as a deputy editorial manager. In that role, as the name may indicate, it was a bit more on everything that is linked to running, the journal, deputizing for the editorial manager, supporting with all aspects of getting manuscripts to the system. This journal, FEPS journal, as well as Journal of Cell Science, they work with an academic editorial board, so the in-house team is rather small.
Okay, it's like a bit like a brain communications, that they have associates that are
Yeah,
PIs
another,
the main job,
yeah, exactly. And then it's another thing, of course, to consider if you really start thinking about an editorial career. To get an idea about the journals, you can always start with the journals you like or you read often, to think about their structure. Many society-based journals, maybe also not for profit publishers, such as Company of Biologists, which publishes Journal of Cell Science and Development, for example. They are run by the manuscript handling is largely done by an editorial board, so academic editors. And then the support comes from an in-house team, which may be very small to a sort of a medium-sized team with different tasks, such as reviews editors would be in-house. And then a couple of years ago, I changed to communications biology, first as a senior editor. And then after a year or so, I got promoted to the deputy editorial role, which again has more oversight and managerial duties baked into the role than manuscript handling.
Okay, so basically was different steps through different journals and different roles. Yeah, and I agree with what you say, that what is seen as always as editor from outside can has different roles, because, for example, also with us, we have the structure that you described before, with an academic editorial board, and so a small team that is in-house. But of course, so we have the scientific editor team, that is my team, where you have you need to have a background in neuroscience. So I have a PhD in neuroscience, and then we have, for example, the managing editor team that in reality does not have a scientific background, but in reality they check more qualitative things. And it's important. That's why in reality, the point of these interviews is really to clarify a bit which is the backstage of these different journals, and how you can, and all of us, we have slightly different paths that led us to current roles.
Indeed. And if you have, for example, our sister journal, so Nature Communications, which of course is widely known as a journal publishing across all areas, really, they are run by professional editors. So the teams, and you can check this out on the webpage, this is a team of a certain expertise that will handle your manuscript. So that's that also then implies that the editors spend most of their time handling research articles. There's not so much about reviews. Again, reviews editor, different role. You would probably look at, in our publishing house, you would look at Nature reviews titles. At Communications Biology, much like all the communications title, it's a very interesting. One of the reasons also why I was excited to join the journal is an interesting concept. So we have a collaborative model. So we do work with a rather large editorial board, and they have a really active role in the journal, much like the journals I mentioned before, the society journals with academic editors. So we do have a large board with academic editors handling the manuscripts, but we also have an in-house team handling manuscripts. So we sort of share the work on this. And the in-house team, of course, does support and does do all other aspects of manuscript handling, but also journal oversight and letting the journal be the journal it wants to be. So it's a mixed model.
So also among the different journals belonging to the big Nature family, they also can have different models within them.
Yes,
no?
yes.
Yeah, my understanding
yes, of course.
is that. Yeah, okay. That's okay. I was thinking that actually they were following the same model, but okay, I see. And so basically, now that you are a deputy editor, which is your more or less, which are your daily or weekly? I mean, I don't want to say daily necessarily tasks or responsibilities.
Yeah, it varies a lot, and it's definitely on the managing and then on the oversight level now. So I've managed a sub team in the journal. So we now have around about 15 editors who are at the journal. So quite a large editorial office across several offices in the world, from New York to Shanghai, which also something that's challenging, but it's also very exciting, with the different time zones. So I manage a team there. Within the group or within the journal, plus I also oversee our editorial board, which currently has about 150 members. So there's always something that needs to be done. We recruit new board members. Board members are leaving. We have workshops. We have board meetings, all kinds of aspects pertaining to interaction. And of course, this also then relates to handling the manuscripts.
Okay.
Yeah.
workshops, so basically to form, so to give to train, sorry, I said to form, to train some of the, I suppose, the academic editors, or no?
Yes.
I mean, workshops
so we,
in this way. Okay.
Yeah, so we want to really provide a lot of opportunities for editorial board to engage with the editorial team, to get to know each other and to answer any questions or help with any pain points they have with getting the manuscripts to the system up to publication, getting their decisions out, and just to making everything smooth with regards to running the journal, running the manuscripts within the journal for them. And for that we have several concepts or several formats where we check in with them, or we support them, or we just run something like a workshop where we go through a specific aspects, like,
okay,
let's say peer review. After peer review, how do you assess the reviews? What are our recommendations in case anything is unclear? So of course, and this takes time, and these are the things that I'm sort of keeping myself busy with a little bit of manuscript handling as well, and other projects like special issues, we call them collections, and really all sorts of things that happen in terms of journal strategy and journal oversight that I can help the chief editor with.
Yeah. I understand, because even maybe I don't know, the journal I work for is younger, so that's why I think in proportion we have less initiatives, but I totally share this thing that besides handling papers, and for sure now you handle less papers, there are all these initiatives to keep like all the community of the journal, the editors, the teams, interacting and always up to date. So there is always everything that you have to keep under control. So in reality, it's a role that is also quite dynamic, even if someone can think that an editor just sits in front of the laptop. Maybe you will still sit in front of the laptop, but not just reading papers.
Yes, I think it's and that's also something I would like to highlight. So sometimes people would assume that for an editorial role, it is a lot about writing, because if somebody applies to an editorial, we see also that people highlight how much they love writing, and quite often that is, sadly, I guess, is not what we do mostly. So the most writing I do is emails. It's not really long essays. I mean, we do publish editorials, of course. We do publish also research highlights, and I've written those, and of course that is when this comes to play, but it's really not the majority of time you spend on this. So I think it is, of course, a laptop-based, or it is a computer-based job, but it's still quite versatile, because depending on your role, you might see all aspects. And I think if of running a journal or being part of a journal and publishing articles, I think if you want to enter the editorial world, the one thing I would recommend is you have to think a bit about what you really want to do, or what interests you as an editor. Do I want to be at the forefront of research articles being published? Do you see new research coming in? You have to assess how this fits in with the literature, what is proposed here, what is new, thinking about peer review, all of these aspects. Then handling an editor handling research manuscripts is the role for you. But maybe related to what I said earlier, if you want to be a reviews editor, you love thinking about the bigger concepts and topics in certain fields, and you engage with authors to maybe then write a perspective or write a review. Of course, some journals also have more like poster formats. Then you work with graphic artists or somebody who would put visual aspects to it, and really work with the authors on what I call developmental editing, work on the manuscript. If that's what you love, then you probably should apply to review editor role. And of course, there's also the position of a copy editing position, or production editor, that is really about getting the language and the grammar up to speed, and through production is having typesetting aspects. So these roles often don't require a PhD, but of course they might also be of interest for somebody who really finds joy in getting a manuscript as perfect as possible. So go inside yourself and ask yourself what you enjoyed the most in your academic career or path, when you interacted with the manuscripts you prepared, or when you were reading manuscripts. So that's a little bit of advice, I would think, that tells you then what job you would pursue, or what could aim for.
So it is a system that allows you to maybe find different types of opportunities. Then of course one person has to start maybe to step in and understand which are the options, but it's something where it's a situation where you can really find with your background in science different opportunities. I think it's very important to, as I said, to know, because as I always realize, it is a system that is not much known from researchers. And that's why, as I said, I like to talk about it. And so now, so is there something that you miss that your researcher life, or something that you like a lot of current life? I don't know, something or both,
Yeah, it's. I think something I would miss is I quite like the aspects of. I don't miss so much having to run experiments all day every day, but I do miss the manual aspects of being in a wet lab. Of course, this might not apply to somebody who has rather theoretical work or a lot of in silico work, or maybe also bioinformatician. But if you work in a wet lab, I quite like the aspect of I'm reading, I'm really working on a presentation, I'm thinking about a project, I'm thinking about my research, but at the same time I'm assembling something with my hands. Or as we talked about Drosophila, you do fly crosses, so I wouldn't say, look, you work a lot with animals, because you do effectively, but it's a bit more of a the fly crossing is sort of a special special skill. But it's a very different flow of your day. So you break this up into parts. And I think at that I did also a lot of microscopy throughout my PhD, throughout my postdoc. So that gives you these really quiet, focused hours in a microscopy room where I would listen to music, I would listen to a podcast. This is maybe more on a side note.
I miss the audiobooks, I have to say, that I used to listen when I was sorting virgin fruit flies.
That's something, it's maybe something silly to say, but it is a certain mindset you put yourself in for a couple of hours every week that are quite enjoyed. And as in an editorial role, I won't be able to, or was never able to listen to even to music while working on manuscripts. I need more, a certain focus, like you would in writing when you're in the lab. But these aspects are quite enjoyed, that you get out of your seat, get away from your laptop, and do some other things throughout the day. So this can be quite versatile. So in the editorial role, it's more versatile within the screen, within the laptop you're working with.
I totally get it. I also miss a bit being in the lab. There are days that are very static, so you have to find basically a way to make it more dynamic. Also, me too. I miss my audiobooks. I used to listen to a lot of audiobooks during sorting fruit flies. So, cool. And something that you really enjoy of this current role, I would say, compared to the previous, the researcher, one?
Yeah, I enjoy, because I think that's also something important for, if you think about an editorial career, if you just enjoy the discovery and thinking about science, although it's not your own research, but you see new science published, and also the joy I see is to accept the manuscript. So you've seen it through peer review and it's made its way, and the authors are then happy with the product, the referees were happy. That is a nice sense of accomplishment that I enjoy having. Nowadays, of course, with running a team and is more project management, I think, in some aspects, but it is certainly, there's a lot of different aspects, as you said earlier, about running a journal that may not be immediately obvious, but there's the production. Sometimes you think about aspects such as marketing, then you think about the strategy of the journal, certain manuscripts types, the teams. It's a lot of aspects to having a journal, especially a bigger one that communications biology now is.
Okay, so going towards the end of our conversation, well, in some way you have already addressed the question that I have, like the advice to people that want to pursue this career. So it's just to have you have to understand if they have they are curious about some topics, and so all if they are willing to explore these aspects of the papers, let's say, of science. But I would like to ask you then an advice for authors, something that you in the time always realize that people have to keep in mind when they write papers or submit papers.
Yeah, I think for authors, one piece of advice is to really have clarity in the paper you're preparing, or in the final product of the paper that you want to send to your journal of choice. Think about the results also from an outsider perspective. Is this clear to somebody who has not already worked on the manuscript for months? And are the figures clear? Can they be understood without having to go back and forth between the texts? So maybe pass this on to a friend or colleague from the neighboring department, so you can sort of compare this with somebody who is not fully immersed in your research. Because sometimes I think we as authors previously, you use sort of you lose the big picture on this. And think about aspects such as paragraphs you present your results and then summarize them again to the audience. What is shown here in a summary, a guiding paragraph at the end of the introduction, which highlights the reports. For submitting to a journal, cover letter, although some editors see this differently, but I think a cover letter is really a good platform to highlight where your work fits in the current research and the literature. So it's your chance in a way to sell the paper. And I don't mean hyperbole. I don't mean overhyping this, but I mean really putting this into a context that is then immediately clear to the editor. So it's an additional chance apart from the main manuscript. And lastly, I would also think it's always a good thing to reach out to an editor. You do this series to look behind the scenes, or clarify on what the editorial role is. And part of this, of course, that there's always a human on the other side, very eager to interact and be clear to the authors, be clear to the referees. So if you receive, for example, your peer review reports and something is not clear, just reach out to the journal, reach out to the editor, and hopefully they are very happy to help. So we do this also on a daily, on a weekly basis to interact with authors on this level, just help clarify things so that there's no guesswork involved. And of course, if your manuscript comes back with a lot of requests, you just will spend a lot of time on this. So just interact, just communicate with editors. We're always happy to help.
This is always something that I say. I mean, here we are not in this role to ruin your paper, but so there is nothing against you. So any question, any doubt, send an email, and one can have a chat if it is better to have a call. So yeah, I totally share this this piece of advice, of course, together with the other ones. Okay, Manuel, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your experience within this system. And thanks to the audience. If someone will have a question for you, I invite everyone to comment the video. Otherwise, if they send something directly to me, I will forward to you. Or anyway, I think on the there is your contact on your journal website. So if they have questions, so
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Manuel, and thank you to everyone.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to watch more videos like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel Science.manuela. If you are an editor or a professional from the scientific publishing world that would like to share her own experience through this podcast, please write me an email at science.manuela@gmail.com email. See you to the next video. Bye!